I became more and more obsessed with creating this. So there's been no stopping me. And when I first met him and he was in a cycling wear, I wasn't sure if it was an egg.
Oh my God.
So that was the next thing, really, where to start with cycling. Like, you see all of these fast cyclists going everywhere, going really fast. Every time something like that, it came from a man. So I'm like, of course you would say that. Usually it fuels my fire even more.
Oh, but like, are you not just excluding the men? Or like, are you not like, what about the men? Like, what about the men who want podcasts too? And I'm like,
What about the men?
like, amazing. Luca, welcome to the Empower Sounds podcast. I am so excited to have you on today. Can you please start by introducing yourself?
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Luca. I started a women's cycling wear brand called Lycra. I designed specifically for women in mind. And yeah.
Incredible. When I was researching you, you said that you wanted to create something different from the men in Lycra aesthetic. Can you talk to us a little bit about, is it mammals?
Yeah.
And why we need something else?
So the term mammals, middle-aged men in Lycra, is often how people perceive cycling in general. So when I came into the sport about 6-7 years ago, I just felt like there was something missing for women. And it's a very male-dominated sport, and it's really reflected in the garments and in the cycling clubs. So one day I just realized like there's something missing. This was in lockdown 4 years ago, and then since then I kind of went on this journey of creating Luca.
You said that you started Luca in lockdown, but what inspired you to get into cycling? Why did you feel drawn to it as a sport? And tell us a little bit about you and your background, and yeah, why cycling?
So at the time I had a partner who was a very, very keen cyclist. And when I first met him and he was in a cycling wear, I wasn't sure if it was an egg.
Oh my God.
It was his tight Lycra, shaved legs, funny shoes, funny helmets.
Oh. I don't know how you survived that one.
No, I for a minute I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. But I pushed through, and I had so many friends that started getting into triathlons, and I'm like, that looks pretty cool. Everyone was doing like half Ironmans, and I'm like, maybe I can do a bit of this. And yeah, then one very good girlfriend took me on my first couple of rides, and I realized, oh, this can be so fun. Yeah, it's a beautiful sport.
And I think when something is a male-dominated space or a sport, there's like a little bit of hesitancy to start because you don't know like the right spaces, or like if you don't have the right garments, like you said. So how did you find going to your first few events, and what inspired you to kind of create a space that is more comfortable for women in cycling?
So that was the next thing, really, where to start with cycling. Like, you see all of these fast cyclists going everywhere, going really fast. Like, there were so many questions, like, who do you go with? How do you plan a route? What do you need to buy? And then the price tags of everything in cycling are really high. Like, there's the bike, first thing. So there's this big barrier of entry. Even you have to buy a bike to even give it a go. And then there comes the cycling wear, the shoes, the helmet. So it felt like there were so many barriers of entry. And similarly with, where do you find a club? And so many of them are going so fast already. So I was very lucky that I had some good friends and a lot of time in lockdown to get out and be stronger on the bike. But I felt like there was really a space missing for beginner cyclists that felt welcomed. Like, you don't have to be clipped in, which is where you're stuck to the bike immediately. There's no need to. Place where it doesn't really matter what speed you're going, or you can ask all of your questions. I felt like there was something missing for that. So this is really where the community and the Luca rides come into place. So every Tuesday morning, I have a women's cycling club that goes out, all levels. My promise is always no one is left behind. I'll always make sure that I'm the very last person in the group. And so far, that's been the case.
And if people want to come join the ride and they're watching, I'm going to put it in the description, but where is it?
So we usually start in Richmond Park because Richmond Park is super easy. It's not that many cars. It's safe. It's very beginner friendly. So we usually do 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, 1.5 laps, and we finish off at a place called the Clubhouse, which is in Putney, for coffee and cake, because that's what it's all about, like getting out, having a chat, stopping for coffee and cake, and having a really wholesome start to the day.
In my mind, cycling has always been like transport or like indoor cycling, and I always just saw it as like exercise machines in the gym, like especially when we're talking about women cycling. I just thought like weight loss. That was where my brain went. And so I found it so beautiful when you talked about it as a sport, because I haven't really seen any representation of it as a sport apart from like in gyms inside, and also, like I said, as transport. So what was it like for you? And for people like me who don't really know much about cycling as a sport, how would you get them involved in the world?
So, well, traditionally, also, even just on a professional level, like the Tour de France is one of the most well-known races, but it was always men.
Yeah.
So very timely, actually, the Tour de Femme starts this weekend, which is the women racing, which is fantastic. So I encourage everyone to watch women's sports, because without people watching them, it won't grow. So share them, watch them, celebrate them. It's so important to kind of grow the female side of the sport. And in terms of like getting into it day to day, join a women's cycling club. Put it out there. Just ask around who's already cycling, and usually some people will help you, lending hand. But I really want to be the place that gets more girls into cycling, and so far I have been able to.
Yeah, and okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think bikes, like the bikes that I have ever had in the past, have always been different to the ones that my dad and my brother use, because you have like the different bars and the situation. But again, I know nothing about bikes and cycling. So if there's someone who's listening and they want to get into cycling, but they don't even know what bike to rent or to buy, where do they start? Like, where can they get resources and knowledge about like what to buy, what equipment to get, what kind of gear to get, where to go if they don't know where to find clubs, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that is a really great question. So I would definitely say there are places now where you can rent bikes. I know there's a place called the Cycle Exchange where you can literally rent a road bike for a day, because yes, you want to test it out, see if you like it. Take it around Richmond Park. Do you like the lifestyle? What comes with cycling? The next question, then buying your first bike. There's, like you said, there's so many bikes. What I always tell everyone is you don't need the highest spec of a bike. Any bike at the beginning will be fantastic. A road bike, make sure it's the right size, but even a secondhand bike will be absolutely perfect. Getting a bike fit is super important. And then obviously the helmet. But then once you have all of that, there's nothing stopping you to get going. So look out for cycling clubs. So message someone like me or other cycling clubs. They usually have beginners rides, and then there's a wonderful community that comes with it.
And what about my girlies who don't live in a city, where there might not be any cycling club, but they might live somewhere a bit more rural, and they have like great places to go biking, but they're scared to go by themselves, either for safety reasons, because that's a real concern, but also just like fear of being bad. I think a lot of people don't try new things because they're scared that they're going to be bad and they're going to be embarrassing or that kind of thing. So if someone can't access a cycling club immediately, how can they get started?
I'd always say find your closest like bike shop, because they're in the know. So usually they will know all clubs around them. They'll know all initiatives. There's apps such as Link My Ride where you can find nearby rides. otherwise, I think your social media is so powerful these days for finding, let's say, other cycling girls. Even message so many cycling influencers. Message them. They're usually so open to like recommending places to go, people to ride with. It's starting to be a very, very inclusive community.
That's awesome. I think we need to now talk a little bit more about apparel and what to wear on the bike. So you said that the first time you saw your ex-boyfriend in his Lycra outfit, it gave you the ick. What are some cycle apparel red flags and green flags?
That's just what it is. Like, cycling wear is tight Lycra. It's because you want to be aero on the bike. So I get it. So all of it is very tight. And the same with the shoes. So you want to clip in because you generate more power. You can use the whole pedal stroke to generate power, and always a helmet. But in terms of like the most important thing about cycling wear, especially, well, for both genders, is the bib shorts. So the padding in the bib shorts.
What is that?
So the padding will protect your private parts.
Okay.
Especially the cycling saddles are very narrow and quite hard.
Yes.
And especially the positioning depending on the positioning you have on the bike, there's a lot of pressure going through those areas.
Yeah.
So you must make sure you have cycling wear with very protective padding, because otherwise you'll be in bits for days.
It happened to me once.
Really?
It freaked out.
Yeah.
It put me off cycling for a long time, actually.
Bib shorts. Yeah. some good bib shorts are absolutely gold.
And what about chasing? What about people who have like thick thighs and they hate, like, is there anything that you recommend that is not wearing leggings? Like if it's a hot day, is there anything that they can do to make it a little bit more comfortable for them?
So I think with Lycra, it's meant to keep you quite it's meant to be tight to your body, and like it's meant to not make the skin in between your legs chafe. Like it's meant to run by it very smoothly. But again, there are different brands, different fabrics. They all have different sizes. That's a complicated thing in the cycling world. There's not really any continuity. With cycling wear, I often found that in some brands I've ordered something in a size I'm usually at, let's say a size small, and I'd have to size up by 2 sizes because they run small. I'm like, okay, well, that's a bit silly. And then in the next cycling wear, it would be the other way around. So it's very confusing. And what I really wanted to do was, for example, the sizing in Luca, I really wanted to create a true to size sizing. So you're usually a size small, you should order a size small in cycling. Sounds logical. I didn't find that in other brands, which is very confusing.
It is confusing. Yeah. And speaking of confusion, I am curious to learn a little bit more about your journey into becoming a founder. So you identified through your experiences in cycling that maybe there's not, like, maybe girls want to look cute on their cycle ride. And right now, like, they're not given the tools to do that. And you decided that you want to do something about it. Talk us through the early stages of starting Lycra, and like, what did that look like? Do you have any background in entrepreneurship? How did you find learning about like that whole world and starting something from scratch?
So I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My mum's an entrepreneur, and so is my dad. So I do think it maybe ran in the family. But I always knew I wanted to do something. So I've done an undergrad, I've got a master's, both in nothing like relatable. But I never really knew what it was going to be. And it was very much just stumbling across it in lockdown, cycling a lot myself, and just realizing I think there's just something missing for women. And why is that? So this is really where the journey began. I spoke to as many people as I could, asked them to refer me to 2 more people to speak to. And that way just kind of formed a bit of an idea. And then I started an internship in fashion to really get a bit of an idea, because I have no clue about designing. So I was like, okay, at least I need to get an idea. I spoke to as many women as I could, cyclists, non-cyclists, like barriers. And that way just formed this idea, and I became more and more obsessed with creating this. So there's been no stopping me.
There is no stopping you. And I think it's so interesting as well when you go and you become a founder, because there's so many things that you do. It's not just the design part, like it's all the admin stuff, it's all the finance stuff, it's all the legal stuff, it's all the marketing, the recruitment, the this, the that, and you don't realize that when you start, and you don't know how to do everything equally. So to anyone who's watching who wants to kind of maybe make something in clothing or in fashion, or they want to do something with like wellness and sport, do you have any advice on starting out, on good resources, or how you taught yourself along the way to start your own company?
So yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm doing so many things I never thought I would be doing. There's so many more elements in running a business than I could have ever imagined. Like the admin. I guess at the beginning, it's like if you have an idea and you want to start something, I go back to what I said before, speak to as many people as possible in those industries, and get an idea of what they need to do and what the next steps are. And speak to professionals. I think learning from people who are already doing what you want to do is the most valuable thing. And most of the time it can be free. So if you have anyone in your network who are doing similar things, or who started anything, you can learn a lot from other founders, even if it's not in a similar market. Listen, ask and listen as much as you can.
And what about my socially awkward people who find it really hard to ask? Listen is fine, but like they don't know how to reach out to people they don't know, or they kind of know. Do you have any advice? And is it different online and in person as well for you?
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of research you can do online as well. I think LinkedIn is a very powerful tool where you can find a lot of professionals, a lot of resources. So yes, the internet, you can find so much information and you can just reach out to a lot of people, but there's nothing like asking someone to meet you for coffee and picking their brain, and again, asking them what they think you should do next, because they've done it before, they've got the experience. And I keep going back that all of those meetings, all of those coffees I've had, every single one of them, I learned something.
And what about advice? Because not all advice is relevant and applicable. I think if you speak to someone, they're usually always well-intentioned, but they might not always have the context of what you are working on. They might have their own opinion, they might have whatever. And I found it quite confronting as a founder to get advice from someone who's way more senior, advanced than me, and then really just not agree with it and not think that it's the right thing for my business. And learning pretty young how to listen and then not take that on board and like trust my own gut. So what has been your experience with like not agreeing, or like listening to other people's advice but listening to your own voice on top of it as well?
Yeah, I just resonate with that so much, because I've had a lot of conversations where the verdict at the end, literally in those words, was, Luca, I just don't think there's a market for women's cycling. Like, what do you say to that? And every time something like that, it came from a man. So I'm like, of course you would say that. Usually it fuels my fire even more, because I can feel the change. And also maybe it takes a woman to speak to women, really to understand their needs and their language and really know what they want. So each and every time I get advice where I'm like, should probably take that with a pinch of salt, I'll still try and see what I can take out of that. What's the learning? But I don't have to listen to everything.
And how do you let that not affect you mentally? Because I think, like, first of all, entrepreneurship is amazing, but it can be lonely sometimes because you're working on everything and it's quite intense. And then if someone says, oh, I don't think there's a market for what you're doing, and you've spent all your time and energy making it work, and then someone's like, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen just because, or for whatever reason. How do you let that kind of not affect you and just continue working and moving on with your life?
It's easier said than done, but there have been hard times. I'd be lying. Like, I've had so many breakdowns, cries, like periods of where I felt so burnt out. And then a comment like that can really, really knock you. But then the thing is, I think you always rise stronger. And I think it's really, it might just sound so cliche, but it's all about how many times you can get back up. Yeah.
Also, I think it's really important to keep a track of your wins as well, and the good voices. Like, I make a big point to, I have like an album in my camera roll of all my wins. Every time someone says something nice, I take a screenshot. Every time something nice happens, I put a picture in there, because you do have these days. And when it is just you, I'm grateful that it's not just me anymore in my team, but it has been for a long time. It's, you don't have anyone being like, oh my God, but you can do it. And so if you get like one mean comment, it really hurts. But you've created that with your community. So how was it building a community, building a cycle club? Like, how did you get people to find out about you and about Luca when you started?
So this is really, so when I launched in May last year, so we've only just really turned one, I worked so hard for this product, and I knew the product was amazing. I had this launch party. It was amazing, super happy. And then after a week after launching, I realized, like, no one knows about the brand. So this is where like the hard work really started. I realized I have to market this and I have to earn people's trust. There's all of these other big brands that people know and trust and love. Why should they spend the hard-earned money on Luca? And this has then come in just in so many ways. So there's the events, and the events can be anything from the rides or doing things of value. So I've ran women's bike mechanic workshops, beginners group rides, anything where these women can meet and ask questions. There's obviously social media, there's paid marketing, there's so many elements. But I think the most important thing for Luca was really getting people to try it and wear it. And that's the hard part, especially if you're not stocked anywhere. So where are they meant to try it and wear it? So I've been going all over the country from event to event all summer, so people can really feel the product, but feel the community. And it's really starting to resonate and work because people recognize the brand, they love the brand. And I feel very proud that the women who have bought Luca, they become usually loyal supporters and repeat buyers because they know the quality, they know the ethos, and wearing Luca means something to them.
And if someone goes onto your website after this podcast, what are your current favorites right now? Like, what do you think should be, like, if someone is starting out cycling, they have no idea what to buy and they want to buy their first thing, what do you think is like a good starting point for them?
So like I said before, bib shorts are the most important cycling piece. So we have called our bib shorts the Road All-in-One because it's so much more than a bib short. It's an all-in-one piece that's supportive across the front as well. Because most other bib shorts aren't. They are very much designed from what I believe is for men because they have these single two straps running over the shoulders. And I'm just like, which part of the nipple are they meant to sit on? I'm like, huh? So that was a really big thing. So yes, our Road All-in-One, I absolutely swear by, and it's not just me. I'm at a place now where people are loving it. So yeah, I think that should be anyone's first purchase. To now we have a different version, padded shorts. They're a bit shorter in length because I realized with that leg tan in the summer can be awful. When you want to wear a cute little dress and then this tan. And then these white legs run just over the knees. So we've created like a shorter short, which is also easy to take on and off because they're short. So there's nothing you need to take on and off.
Wow.
Yeah.
And focusing on women's apparel, have you ever had pushback from people being like, because right now, my company, I focus on working with women as well. And I've had a few comments around, oh, but like, are you not just excluding the men? Or like, are you not like, what about the men? Like, what about the men who want podcasts too? And I'm like,
What about the men?
like, yes, okay. So what about the men?
What about the men? I am so far from like a man hate or anything.
No, me too. I would just like to put it out there.
So far from it. I actually, growing up, I was very much a tomboy. I always had more guy friends than girlfriends growing up. Just because I loved just being out and about, being on bikes, and I wasn't really a pink girly or sleepovers. I was just more of a tomboy. But then it was actually only in my 20s where I realized real strong, like female friendships are so important and beautiful, and then there's so much more of an understanding, and it doesn't have to be the bitchiness you sometimes, I feel like I witnessed often in school, which I wanted to stay away from. So I celebrate both beautiful male friendships and female friendships. But then in terms of the brand, there's so much for men out there.
Yeah.
And this is really why I felt it was so important to create for women specifically. When you look at most of the cycling wear, it's all just men's stuff. The female department is a lot slimmer. Because, well, a lot of people explain this because, well, the men buy more. And it's like, well, is that really nurturing the female cyclists and that community and that market? So I stand by it. I want to design specifically for women. Never say never. Who knows what happens, but definitely not in the near future.
Okay. I think that's a really powerful decision as well. Like, I'm sure that's something that you must have heard feedback from at some point from people being like, yeah, but like, what if you just like make one for everyone? And I think it's really nice when you create a community, start off like making sure that you really serve the community, and then you can expand rather than trying to do everything at once.
Agreed.
Speaking about friendship, do you think cycling and like having this women's cycling club has nurtured your female friendships? And how, like, if someone again is thinking of starting cycling, they don't have any friends that are doing it, but they think it might be a cool way to meet new people, what advice do you have for them? Do you think it's a good way to like try a new thing, meet new people, and like how has it impacted your relationships?
So I definitely think like cycling clubs are the new run clubs.
Okay.
Also because you cover a lot more distance on a bike. So on a weekend, going on a ride with a new group of people, picking your favorite coffee stop. Firstly, you get out into nature. You exercise, you meet new people, you look super cute if you're wearing Luca.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win-win all around. So I can't really, for me, for me, it's wins over Run Club. But I haven't been a runner, so
I think like it's a little bit less embarrassing as well. Like I'm really trying. I'm training for a half marathon right now, and I still haven't been to a run club because I'm just scared. No. I feel like I think with cycling, like no one can see the distress on my face while I'm cycling.
Don't be scared. I very much believe all of these clubs are so welcoming. But anything you try and whatever is new, especially if like you come into a community who all knows each other, it's very daunting. But I think every time in life you push yourself out of your comfort zone, there's more reward after that, because suddenly you have this amazing new group of people, and you all have this shared passion, and you're like, oh my God, I've been missing this.
Yeah.
So do it.
I will. And again, slightly random question, but I have dyspraxia, which is a coordination disability. And a lot of people that have dyspraxia, it's not a condition that's talked about a lot, but it's like pretty common. It's like dyslexia or ADHD. It's in the same category. And it means that you find it really hard to tell left from right, judge how fast something is, and judge how fast something is, and other coordination things, which I don't know if you ever did bikeability in school.
No,
In
never.
England, they make you do this thing in school called bikeability, where basically they make you in primary school do like a cycling course, and you either pass or you don't pass. And I didn't pass mine because I was too scared.
Sorry.
And it meant that I just didn't get on a bike for like a decade because I was like, I'm gonna actually die. And I think that's something like a lot of neurodivergent or dyspraxic people are scared of with sports, with especially sports that require coordination, like cycling or ball sports. So have you ever encountered like neurodivergence in cycling, and do you have any advice around that?
I do. I have friends, but I can't say I'd be in a position where I could give any advice. Could I put you in touch
Yes.
with her? 100%. And I feel like I'd be in a safe place to be there. But I think I wouldn't be in a good place to give any advice. I definitely do think there'll be resources and people out there. And there's also cycling in London is scary.
It's so scary.
It's super scary for anyone. For anyone, like each of them, probably every day when I go try even just the ride to get to Richmond Park, I'm like, okay, here we go. But I think once you are more comfortable on a road, even cycling in London, it can be a more comfortable thing. But yeah.
And what about the identity of someone who, like, I think when you start things like running or cycling, you adopt this, like, I'm a this person, I'm a that person, right? And I think that can be really hard for people who haven't identified as sporty at any point in their life. Like, you have some people who I'm guessing are going to watch this and they're like, I'm not a sporty person. And a lot of women, sadly, are conditioned to view exercise as like a weight loss thing. For me, that was the case for like many years, where it was like, that was the only way that I was told to think about exercise. And so it's only a recent thing in my 20s where I'm learning to enjoy movement for movement and sport for sport. So people who are watching who want to turn, like, they don't want to treat this as a weight loss thing and they want to like try on a new identity, but they're scared because they're like, I'm not sporty, I'm not fast, I don't know how to do it. Do you have any advice on like, not the actual tangible physical part of getting started, but the mental like insecurity and barriers around it?
I can 100% relate to that because I wasn't sporty at all. In school, I was the person who would get my mum to write a note to get me out of PE. Really,
Me too.
Really.
Me too.
I was a drama and music girl. It took me until I was about 23 to start to wanting to do something. So I started with running and CrossFit, and I fell in love with CrossFit. So I think it's really just about find that something you love. And then I guess the big thing is community. So don't see it as the sport itself. Find something that has a beautiful community around it, and it'll just feel like you're seeing your friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually just the best advice. Don't see it as like getting out on the bike. No, see it as I'm actually going to see my friends, and we are going on a ride to a beautiful cafe. And it's not really about the sport. It's about the lifestyle, the people.
Yeah. And what is something that is out of your comfort zone that you are like thinking about trying, or maybe have been putting off trying? Because a lot of people that are watching this, cycling might be something out of their comfort zone, and us making this episode, hopefully the nudge to be like, get on a bike. I'm going to get on a bike after this, I hope.
Yeah.
Please hold me accountable.
I'll get you.
But what is something for you that is out of your comfort zone that you want to try next?
So I've actually been almost addicted to pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I'm a huge believer that there lies so much value. So I love adventure sports. I surf. I jump out of planes for fun. So
Wow.
I love pushing myself out of comfort zones because you teach yourself that you are so much more capable of what you ever think you are. So I think my comfort zone, talking, like anything like public speaking. So probably one of my biggest anxieties, and it really makes me nervous, is, for example, let's say holding a TED talk, talking for, let's say, 20 minutes straight. That makes me anxious. And now I'm probably going to have to do something like that.
Well, claps to you, because you're here today and you're in the studio. And you know what? Like I said, I think confidence comes from evidence. And so the more you do it, the more I'm sure that's the same with cycling. The more you do it, the more you're like, okay, I can do it. Yeah. It's the same with talking. And so, yeah, I hope everyone who listens, watches this, takes this as a sign to do something out of their comfort zone. And I'm getting on a bike for sure. I'm sure a lot of people, to that. Please. To people who want to get on a bike around, who are listening, how can they find you? I'm going to link everything down below, but what are your resources?
So you can find me personally on Instagram. It's just Luca Kuhn. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find the brand, which is ride_Luca. You can find us on rideluca.com. And I always aim to get back to absolutely everyone. So please reach out.
Slide into her DMs, guys. And I will link all the Luca website and everything, so people can look cute on their first cycles. I always end this podcast with the theme of gratitude. So to wrap up, will you please share what you're grateful for?
I am so grateful for the community that surrounds me, that drives me through the tougher days and celebrates the highs with me. I wouldn't still do it without them, for sure.
Beautiful. And I hope that some members of this community are going to be Luca girlies soon.
Yeah.